In this program, we're going to learn about while loops. So I'll call this project while loops. And I'll have a Java class. And I'll call it while loop. While loops are pre-test loops. That means we're going to check a condition at the very start before the loop ever runs. It's possible the loop may not even run at all, because we'll check the condition at the top right by the word while. Getting all this documentation done. And it's candy time. I'll have a variable about Butterfingers. You can select whatever you want, and I'll give myself 34 Butterfingers at the start. And I'll display how many Butterfinger candy bars we have. And should display that we've got 34 Butterfinger bars right now. That's what we've got. I'll edit this line of code here because it's actually going to be a representation of how many Butterfinger bars we have before the loop runs. Doesn't all quite fit on one easy line with what I've got here. Still working out okay. We have 34 Butterfinger bars before the loop. Well, let's get some more. And here's where we're going to use a while loop. While Butterfingers are less than 50, you can pick whatever you want. But I'll say while Butterfingers are less than 50. As long as that condition is true, this loop will run. I'll document this here at the bottom, saying that this while loop deals with increasing the number of Butterfinger candy bars. You don't have to do it exactly as I did, but I want to indicate that that brace ends a while loop. Every time this loop runs, I want to increment the Butterfingers. They go up by 1. And I'll display then the current number of Butterfingers. Once the loop is done, I'll also clearly display how many Butterfinger bars there are after the loop. So I'll change that, the word before to after. Let's see what happens. Started with 34, went up by 1 every time with Butterfingers plus plus, and then once Butterfingers was 50, 50 is not less than 50, the condition was no longer true, and the loop ended. If I had used less than or equal to 50, well, 50 does equal 50, so the loop would have run one more time and increased Butterfingers by 1 up to 51. That's not what I wanted in this circumstance. While loops can also be handy when we're trying to validate user input. We'll create a scanner object and import what we need to accomplish that. You know that I like to move my import statements just before the class actually starts away from the documentation. That's not required on your part. I'll call this scanner object keyboard. And I'm going to have some Hershey bars to go along with the Butterfingers. We'll start with 0 Hershey bars. You can use any candy you want. And we're going to have the users give us an amount of Hershey bars. But we want to make sure that the Hershey bars fall within a certain range. We want users to enter in a number between 1 and 50,000, and 1 and 50,000 are both okay. So we're going to explain that in the directions here to enter a number of Hershey bars to go with the Butterfinger bars, and the number must be between 1 and 50,000 inclusive, because once again 1 is going to be okay, and so will 50,000. Make sure that actually shows up, and it does. So we'll get a value using keyboard.nextInt. And then we'll check to see if this is valid input. We'll use a while loop, and there's no escape from this loop until we're sure we have valid input. If the input is invalid, we'll make the users try again. So while this condition is true, the condition will be that Hershey bars is less than 1, or Hershey bars is greater than 50,000, because those are bad. If either one of those is true, the users need to try again. So we'll give the users a message to let them know that they've given us invalid Hershey bar data. And we'll offer them the opportunity to try again. We'll copy and paste the lines of code we already had that would allow the users to enter an amount of Hershey bars. And I better document the end of this loop. It's a few lines away from where it started. So this while loop deals with getting a valid amount of Hershey bars. And just to make sure, at the end, I'll display how many Hershey bars the user has. Well, let's try it out. It is false that 600 is less than 1 or greater than 50,000, so the while loop did not run. 600 was valid. But if we try -1, that is less than 1. If we try -55, that's no good. If we try 400,000, that's greater than 50,000. So all of those things triggered the loop to keep working until we finally entered a number that was okay. And it's a good idea to check these edge values. We'll check 1 and 50,000. Oops, that's 500,000. Let's try 50,000 to make sure our edge values work and everything is okay. That while loop allowed us to get valid data. It was triggered whenever we had invalid data. The only escape from that while loop was to get data we wanted.